go ahead and get started. How was the keynote downstairs? It was good? Awesome, awesome. So thank you for taking the time to come here today. I truly appreciate it. I know it's supposed to be a VIP session, but we're all VIPs in our own right, right? So thank you so much for coming. So we're gonna jump right into it and really talk about self-promotion and branding in tech, but really leveraging AI. We have this new kind of frontier where we have this tool that can help us do things quicker, better, faster. We don't have to start from scratch, which I kind of did. But for you guys, you can take it a step further. So we'll start with this, right? Before any big moment, remember, somebody has probably Googled you. And what pops up is super important, right? Even that comes down to you, what you put out there. So have any of you ever Googled yourself?
I don't show up.
You don't show up? Why don't you show up? You have a LinkedIn? A LinkedIn pop up?
Yeah.
Okay.
My LinkedIn don't even show up.
It doesn't?
I got a very common name.
We're going to have to figure out how to differentiate that. We're going to add a third or a junior or your middle initial. We're going to figure it out. But always keep that in mind. So I even have coworkers who are like, oh my God, I looked at your website, or oh my God, I looked at your LinkedIn, and I'm not even necessarily in the same rooms as them, but when networking and people trying to figure out who you are, that's what they do. So it's really important that what you have there and what your message is, you are in control of that. And so when you Google yourself, we're going to see somebody. We're going to work on you. Okay. Make sure something shows up. So with that, we're going to talk about tech. So why is it so much important in the tech industry? So right now, the demand for tech talent will grow. I know it seems abysmal, everybody getting laid off left and right, but working where I work at the National Science Foundation and working on different funding programs, we know that there will be an increase in tech talent. And so I work on a program that focuses mostly on diverse innovation ecosystems. And so with that, there's going to be jobs everywhere. So, you know, innovation ecosystems, you have Silicon Valley in California, Kendall Square in Boston. So one of the programs I work on, we want to see that throughout the US. So if that's, we already have the federal government involved and invested, so we know there's going to be an increase. It may not look good right now, but it's coming, I promise. Another reason is that 90% of hiring managers in tech said they face challenges finding skilled candidates. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm sure we're all skilled in some sort of way. We got certifications, we might have did a micro internship or an apprenticeship, something. But honestly, the skills they're looking for outside of just tech are some soft skills. And sometimes we really lack in that, right? Communication, leadership, time management, some of those skills that people are really need to cultivate. And some of that can show more through your actual personal brand. And then lastly, these days you don't really have to have a 4-year degree in order to get into tech, right? You got certifications, you get internships, you got all these different kind of things going on. So, but that also opens you up to more global competition. It's not just you in your town competing against someone down the street. It's you competing against international candidates. So the question really becomes, how do I stand out? And the answer really is self-promotion and personal branding. So we'll start off with personal branding, and I'll kind of go through my journey of what that looked like for me. And so really what personal branding is kind of creating your own superhero persona. And we'll talk more about personas as we go into a little bit of the large language models, right? So it's about your uniqueness, your unique value proposition, right? So in here, like I said, this might be a VIP session, but we are all becoming a VIP in our field. So therefore we must act as such. And so really your personal brand is now your business card. So again, when people look you up, we need to see what you're doing. So again, AI is coming, it's here, it's very prevalent, so therefore you need to be able to use it. So AI won't replace humans, but humans that use AI will replace humans without AI. So it's super important that we start using these type of tools to help us get these messages across. So it's so many tools now, so many different apps that come out every day. Large language models, there's about a dozen now. Who knows, tomorrow there may be 24. It just keeps on exponentially growing. So you can do so many different things, from focusing on business to image generation, looking at an AI assistant, coding, writing, productivity. There's so many apps out there. And while I'll give some recommendations on what I use, what you use is fine. But I think as long as you have an idea of what's out there and what can be used is super helpful. So benefits of using AI in this space, right? We want to save time. No longer, and we talked about it earlier, do we have to sit there and just kind of think of ideas on our own. You can actually interact with an AI model and it can help generate ideas for you or with you. right? And we're also, again, content creation, ideation, helping with social media strategies, even looking deeper into the analytics. So again, AI is something super important and super beneficial when thinking about your personal brand. So I like to think about this in like 4 distinct steps. And I think the first one is really finding your brand voice. And so what is it about you, your personality, that shines through when you're talking about your brand? So for me, I can be very casual. I'm like, girl, even at work, I'm slang. I don't code switch. Like, this is who I am 24/7, and I'm not going to change. And so that also comes through my brand voice when you look on social media. LinkedIn, I might, be a little bit more professional. But either way, it's just very conversational, but also very just kind of one-on-one. The next is more your brand identity. So logos, colors. As you guys can see, I have specific colors on this PowerPoint template, and I will go into how we got there. But really, it's just like, what are the things that are going to set you apart and make you unique? I mean, even here at BattyCon, look at all the pink and the different shades. It's a specific presence that they have, right? And the reason why I wore a pink dress. And then also content creation. A lot of us can struggle in that area, right? What does that look like? We have this one person creating this type of content, but that might not feel natural to you. So what does it look like for you in different spaces? And then lastly, brand analytics. And so as always, as people in STEM, we always want to see the fruit of our labor, see what's working, what's not working. And so I'll go through that as well. So traditionally, this is kind of how you find your brand voice, right? You identify your core values. And so with that, I usually tell people to pick 5 core values. You can't choose all of them. All of them can't be important. Therefore, none of them will be important. So you have to pick 5 that really talk to and really illustrate what your brand is and what it looks like. And then you have to understand your audience. So this could be from looking at who you interact with on Instagram, whether you have more female followers, male followers, whether they're more in tech, they may not be in tech. Really understanding what they like, what they respond to is super important as well. And then also you want to kind of have that consistency across all platforms. So for me, what you see on LinkedIn banner, you also see on my website, and you also see on YouTube. I also have the same name, Team Korie, pretty much on all of them. So when you find me, you're not looking for 5 different things. You're looking for one thing, one person. And then lastly, you definitely want to make sure you infuse your personality. Again, you are you. You're the only you. So therefore, you should let that shine and really show through. Oh, see, I'm already skipping through. Okay, so when you use AI, it can really help. For instance, understanding language patterns, right? Large language models are there to really understand language patterns, and you can use it to understand what your language pattern is, right? A lot of times we want to immediately use the output from AI, but that's not in your voice. That's in someone else's voice that doesn't really represent you. And I'll go through how you can do that. And then it'll help generate consistent content. You can create a schedule, you can create a calendar, such great things. You can also refine and adapt your tone. Remember I said earlier, what I might post on Instagram may not be what I post on LinkedIn. I might ask for a more professional tone versus something that's more colloquial. And then also testing. It's time to experiment. See what works, what doesn't work, and using AI can really help you do that. So these are some of the ones I think that really, or at least apps that can really help you with understanding and identifying your brand voice. And we're going to do a little demo that I've already kind of done. And I might ask somebody to help with that. But really, this is Copy AI. And what it can do is really help identify what your brand voice is. So what you can do is basically take content that really reflects your brand voice and put it into here, and it'll spit something out and it'll analyze it for you. So for instance, I think something to pull from is basically a website copy. So if you have a website, you have an About You probably section. I wrote mine personally, so that's what I took from and put it in here to really analyze what my brand voice is. So I already did that. And here's by default. And then here's what it spit out. I'm not gonna read all of it, but we'll just go through it, right? Empowering, passionate, and scholarly with a touch of personal warmth, Dr. Korie's voice speaks to a diverse audience of students, professionals, and advocates in the STEM field. We'll go down. Always maintains a tone of optimism and determination, showing that challenges can be overcome and that everybody has a role to play in advancing science and technology. Now, if I didn't like it, I could definitely redo the analysis, but I'm like, this sounds pretty accurate, so we're gonna roll with it. So what you can do is then save this as a default across your team space and then go to different chats and then start asking it questions and creating different content. So one of the first things that I did was ask, based on my brand voice, who would be Dr. Korie's target audience and her target persona. So this is kind of like that niche conversation that everyone has. You got to niche down, niche down. You just really need to know who your target audience is and who your target persona. So my audience is really anyone who, really students, professionals, advocates who are really into the STEM field and promoting diversity within that field. And really my target persona really embodies a spirit of resiliency and curiosity driven by a deep desire to make a difference in the world through STEM. And so really an example is someone who sees obstacles as opportunities for growth, who embraces diversity as a cornerstone of innovation, and it continues. And so that gives me a great idea of who I can create content for and how I can target them. And then when I'm writing that content, it already has my brand voice saved. So therefore it'll sound more like me versus some type of automated computer. I was gonna do a demo with someone else, but because of time, we're just gonna keep it moving. So I'm gonna go back to the presentation. But this is something that you can do to at least analyze your brand voice and see where it is and see if you're happy with it. And then you go on and you can change it. All right. So next is brand identity, right? So those again are the visual elements. So with your colors, your logo, the design, and really traditionally, this is kind of the step that you would take. You would define your purpose and really the vision for your overall brand, right? Again, your unique value proposition. What makes you different from everyone in the crowd? What do you offer to your audience that maybe someone doesn't or is not feeling in that space? Also visual and verbal elements. So I like to sign off a lot of things that I write as your favorite scientist. And people come up to me like, you're a scientist, right? And I'm like, yeah, I marketed myself as such. So stuff like that, people will remember taglines. So that would be part of that visual and also verbal elements. And then also align with your audience's perceptions. When I post about a new job or some type of paper that I publish, I know people really don't like that. Now, if I put out hair content on my page, that's a toss-up. Some people really care about that, mostly Black women. Others on my page, not so much. So it's a different type of interaction. So you just gotta be consistent within that. So with AI, you can really start by optimizing your visual brand, right? So you can go into different apps. If you want to have a logo, color design, you can play around and see what it outputs, help you be more consistent across the platforms. And also you can track and adapt your identity over time. So I've done that without AI, but in the beginning, it was just a picture I saw or took in the lab from actually doing like a photo shoot, hiring a web designer, going through that whole creative process to get to this. So these are, again, some of the ones that I like to use or can use or I think that are very useful. So Canva, of course. They say Canva is going to replace Photoshop. I doubt that because you can be very custom with Photoshop, unlike Canva, not as so much. But Canva has like everything that you can put in there. You can actually build a website. You can put your logos. It probably actually make a logo for you, all the different apps that are linked into it. Very powerful tool. Wix is another powerful one. They've gotten even better. Free place to start. Put in a few ideas and it'll output a website for you. And then Adobe Illustrator, they have now new AI that's in that platform. When I was doing my grad school, they did not. So I have a different type of relationship with AI, with Adobe Illustrator, but I think it's also super pertinent for if you want to look at what your design elements will look like. All right, so now we're gonna kind of go through my process. So I hired a website designer to figure out what my identity, my personal brand looked like. And so I was very pertinent about it being a Black woman, someone that has done a website that I liked before, and so that's who I chose to go with. And it was a process. We started off in Pinterest, and with that, I just put some colors. I'm like, I like green, I like blue, love rose gold. If you ever see my house, I got rose gold everywhere. So I'm like, can we kind of incorporate that into like the website? But then we started thinking about the logo, and I was like, okay, I think I want my name and maybe some type of scientific element to go with it since I'm a scientist, and let's see how that goes. So this is me talking to a human, but imagine me talking to AI first. And this was the output. So I saw this first, and I was like, it looks a little elementary to me. We're not there yet. But I was like, this is a good start. It has some of that in there. I was like, maybe we can take out the scientific element. That doesn't have to be a major part of my brand identity and just go with my name and maybe some initials. Let's see what that looks like. So then she sent me this and I was like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting closer. Still not 100%, but 2A through 4, I think that's a little bit better. At least PhD, it's doctor something. So we'll kind of roll with that. And then I was like, maybe we could do another iteration. And so she sent me this last portion. And so she incorporated a little bit of the blue, the green, the rose gold that I was talking about. And I was like, we're almost there. we got a little bit more to go, but we're almost there. And if you can see in the hint in the corner, we eventually got there. And so she sent me this. And when she sent me this, I was like, that's it. That's what I want. It's sleek. It's demure, as the phrase I've been hearing. It like has the logo that I want. A secondary, the submarks, the color palette is so me. Like everything, the fonts I kind of don't stick too hard to the fonts, but I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. And so we went to this, and then we got to this, which was my website. And so this is really took a couple months of me and her going back and forth, thinking about our ideas, thinking how logos and everything would come out. And then when she sent me this, I almost cried because I was like, girl, you nailed it, you nailed it. And so even my buttons, I was like, can we make sure they look rose goldy, something like that? I know she was tired of me, but I paid her, so she should be all right. Even my dad's like, have you seen my daughter's website? So this was a labor of love. But imagine being able to do this in maybe like 30 minutes, an hour with AI. But I just want to show you guys the process that I took, and it can be even easier if you're actually using AI tools. So how many of us feel kind of cringy when we talk about self-promotion, trying to promote ourselves? I'm sure a lot of us can, right? You know, I'm thrilled to announce, or I'm excited to share. Me, I stopped doing that. I'm like, look, I got a job today. Or, hey, I did this. Sometimes I just jump right into it because I don't need to be thrilled or excited to share anything. I'm just sharing it. And so I think this quote really comes to mind every time I think about, oh, I don't know how I feel. This seems kind of cringy. But really, it's important that we shine our light in all different kinds of ways, because you really never know who you're going to impact and who sees it and who thinks, oh, if she's doing it or he's doing it, I can do it too. So always keep that in mind. When you guys feel cringy about it, it's necessary. I always say my story is not my story, it's our story. So I've been doing a disservice if I don't share it. All right, now we're going to move on to the self-promotion part. And again, I really want to emphasize this is your personal cheerleader moment. I always say no one's going to fight for you or advocate for you like you are. So therefore, you better start sharpening those skills. Speaking up for yourself, branding yourself in a certain way, making sure people see you in a certain way if you want them to. And so regardless if you're social media, you know, networking here at an event like this, you're really kind of showing people this is what I've got and that I've got this. And so just make sure you keep that in mind when it comes to self-promotion. You got to be your biggest fan. I'm my biggest fan, outside of my mama who's in the room, but I think I'm my biggest fan. So when it comes to content creation, right, we're trying to create various forms of media to really target the audience. And so I came up, I think, with 5 types of content that I think are super pertinent and how someone can do that with a personal brand. And so the first step really, or the first type of content you create, there we go, is storytelling. So what that is really sharing your personal stories that connect with your audience. I think my brand really started to grow when I was just sharing my experience of going through grad school. Wasn't nothing too fancy, but I'm like, hey, PhD student, this is kind of isolating, it can be a little rough. People related to that, and I found my community in that. Next one is thought leadership. And so what are you the expert in? What can you share? What advice and things can you give? And so I think it's really important that you really showcase your expertise through insightful content. Like everything doesn't necessarily have to be this well thought out graphic, and you got to be on, please Lord no, a podcast. It could be something as simple as a Twitter thread that really can engage people that you know what you're talking about and you know your stuff. Another one is achievements. Again, I'm excited to share. I want everyone to know. But I think it's important to people know that you have certain accomplishments and projects going on, because then they might be looking for you and don't know that you're there because you never said anything about it. Whether it's doing an internship, completing an internship, certification course, going to the White House if you were invited to the recent content, I think, expo that they had, or just even talking to kids at your church. All those things I think are achievements. It doesn't have to be being published in a magazine or being featured or 40 under 40 or 40 above 40. You know, it's just so many different things that we can think of as far as achievements. And then lastly, resources. So what valuable information? So this is your educational content, right? What can you teach someone that they may not already know? So like maybe a software engineer, they may not exactly talk about their job if they're working for like a defense company, but maybe they can start talking about this is what an array is, right? Or this is software engineering 101. So this is more your educational content that you can give someone. And then last is scenes. So everybody loves to be nosy. So we want to see what maybe what's going on behind the scenes. So maybe like a day in the life, or this is what it looks like when I'm at this conference, working, networking. So these are some of the content that you guys can use in order to, or at least ideas, to really kind of create that target or hit that target persona and that target audience. And so with that, you have these 5 different types of content. And this is how you can be a little bit more consistent with doing it, right? Is you can post a different type of content based on the day of the week. You don't have to do it in the way that I did it, but I think this is a good example of, at least we were talking about earlier, kind of planning that out and seeing what that looks like on a day-to-day. Now, I'll be honest, I don't post every day. Don't got the time nor the patience. But if you want to start, maybe if you have a business, I think it's important to be consistent. But I've gotten to a point where I've been able to build up my brand where I don't have to post every day or interact with everyone every day. I'm more of an in-person person anyway, but again, this is something more thoughtful that you can do. So these are some of the tools that I think are very good with helping with content creation. I use Canva a lot when I'm trying to make everything kind of uniform. Opus Clip is a good video platform. So if you post just like a clip, a 3-minute clip of you talking, it'll take clips out of it and create a whole video for you. You don't have to necessarily edit that yourself. Still double check, because you never know what they may grab and what it may look like. And then also, of course, the OG in the group, ChatGPT. So I'm going to go through something really quick in ChatGPT that I think is would be very interesting. So first, we'll start off. You guys are familiar with ChatGPT, correct? Okay, all right. So we have large language models. And I'll go into this in a little bit, but they're about recognizing language patterns and really predicting what the next word is. So for instance, if I type in something like, Mary had a little, who can finish that sentence? All right, let's see if ChatGPT does the same thing. It does, okay. And we got the whole rhyme, all right? Had lamb, it pleases white as snow, and everywhere that where Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. And so again, it's recognizing that pattern because it's been fed so much data from the internet and also as well as its books that they have copyright rights to. And therefore it knows the pattern, so that's what it's gonna spit out. But if you change the pattern a little bit, then it might spit out something a little different. So a girl named Mary had a, don't laugh at my typing skills, microscopic. Essentially, I'm saying the same thing, right? But let's see what ChatGPT might put out. I mean, when I think of microscopic, I think of science immediately. We're already looking through like a telescope maybe or something like that. Let's see what ChatGPT does. A lamb would shrink and go. See, so it changed a little bit of the output because of what I put in. So thinking instead of Mary had a little microscopic, something is nestled in her pocket. So it kind of follows what it thinks microscopic would be and not necessarily what the original output of Mary had a little lamb. And so again, let's think of something maybe a little different. Let's say Mary is going to the gym. I'm only putting in the gym because I've been trying to get in the gym and get in shape recently, right? What would the lamb see? And let's see what that outputs. And so it's familiar with gyms and what may be in a gym, but now I'm asking it to tie up what maybe the lamb might see and notice, right? So it sees a bustling scene filled with vibrant energy, sees people running, gym floors, people scattered across yoga mats, water bottles, but that's just sort of sees that Mary is focused on her fitness goals. So I'm giving you these examples because I'm showing you just with ChatGPT, when you put in a generic output, you'll get an output that's generic. When you put in something different, you'll get a better output. And so we can even do something like explain large language models in a way that a lamb could understand. So a magical library filled with countless books and scrolls. Each one contains words, sentences, and stories from all over the world. For the lamb, it's having a wise, invisible friend that always knows what to say no matter the question or the topic. So you see, that's what we call kind of audience persona prompting. So now it's putting that output in terms of the audience that you want to target. So this is just a quick example of how you can really see how ChatGPT can, depending on what your input is, you'll maybe get a different output. So we'll do one more real quick. So I've already, the 5 type of contents that I showed you guys earlier, I kind of made a PDF. We're going to open that. And then I'm going to ask it to do something. We're going to go back. So I'm asking it to basically read this PDF and create a table template for me to use in the future based off of this template that I can easily fill in. So it took all of those, topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, and that's the table template. So let's say we're talking about AI. So the topics that I want to talk about are maybe generative AI. Somebody want to give me another topic I can put in here?
Relating to AI?
Relating to AI.
Oh, no, that was a question.
Yeah, relating to AI, yes. Anybody? I mean, I do have some already, but if you guys want to see something else, please let me know. But I'll go ahead and put these in. So I put my 3 topics are large language model, generative AI, and AI ethics. Can you fill in the topics and then the table with content ideas? And then, bam, it starts creating the content ideas for me. And then you can take it a step further, which I won't do, but then actually go into each content idea and start more of an ideation process of what that looks like for you. So this is how you can quickly or more quickly do that when you're creating content for your own brand or your platforms. So now we'll move on to, again, prompt engineering. So what I basically did was basically a prompt engineering, right? I'm developing and optimizing prompts to really use in these large language models. And so basically with any prompt, it's kind of like this basic formula. You ask maybe to act as a role, perform a task, and have a certain output. So the role could be anything, right? Baddie in tech, thought leader, social media, marketing expert, whatever you want it to be. And what you want it to do is maybe create some type of task, right? Social media caption, a cover letter, email sequence, blog post. Those are just some of the ideas. It can be very many. And then show it as the output. And so I asked it to do a table in the earlier example, and that was the output. So for personal branding and actual self-promotion, here is more of an upgraded prompt. So we're acting as a certain role. We're creating a certain content type for a certain audience in a tone that reflects some essential info. We'll actually feed it some. And then it'll include examples for references and ask me questions to help achieve the task. So a lot of times ChatGPT isn't something you have to just ask questions to get output. It can also ask you questions. So here are some prompt examples. So here we have the acting as the role, right? We're creating some type of content, LinkedIn summary or content calendar, depending on what your audience is, as well as the tone, whether you want it to be informative or professional, that has some, and again, added some essential info. We included them to actually, some examples for it to go look for, but you can include examples that you want them to actually go off of. So even my website, I looked at many different websites and sent them to her for us to kind of get to that. So I think it helps with prompting with examples as well. And then it can ask you questions to help to achieve that task. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through that, but hopefully you guys take a picture and then mess around with ChatGPT later or any large language model and see what the output is. Did I click too fast? Did you guys get it? Okay. So these are, again, some of the great ones. Even going into my Canva, just showing you a few features. Let's go. Some of the templates. Let's just go into this presentation that I'm currently in. If you see on the sides, different templates, layouts, but you actually have a part right here that says brand. And in that brand is where you can put your logos, your colors, your fonts, and even in here, it'll generate a brand voice for you. And then all these different apps, so many different things, some more that are AI powered. This is really get you a Canva Pro. It'll totally help it with content creation. All right. And so here's just an overall when thinking about AI prompts. Again, when you put in something generic, you're going to get something generic on the output. So you really have to think and like engineer it in a way. We're all smart in here, so we can think of ways. But you really want to have clarity, specificity, right? Again, that whole role, task, audience, tone, examples, those are good ways to really craft it. Essential information, like it's pulling from so much data, it's going to give you whatever it sees. But if you actually put that data in or that essential information, it'll stay focused. Again, examples, and also being being flexible, because a lot of times you'll get an output to be like, okay, that's not what I wanted it to do. Let me type it in a certain way. Or I want to do this for a different platform. Let me do it this way. And so I think it's really important that you also remain in that experimentation phase, refining the prompts, putting it in, refining it again. It'll really help, again, create that personal brand voice for you. And then here we have brand analytics. Now, what we normally do, right, is you can go to Instagram. You can see who your audience is. I hope you guys are doing that. You can see where they're from, what countries they're in, and you can also see if they're really engaging with the type of post that you're putting out there. It'll also help you measure that brand awareness and kind of assess the content performance. Again, I told you sometimes I may put out something, it'll do really well. Sometimes when I talk about Sheila, which is my hair, it may not. And that's fine. But that's personal or that's authentic to my brand, so I'm going to still showcase that in different ways in various forms, right? And also help you monitor the competitors, or at least I think it's good to look at other people that you think are doing a good job and seeing what kind of content they're putting out, which kind of content is doing really well, and if they're in the similar realm, or if they're not in a similar realm than you are, and really kind of taking that not to copy, but to be inspired to create something authentic to you. And so when we're using AI, I think it's really important because then you can automate data collection. You can have it analyze a post for you, or you can give it your analytics and then maybe have it predict a trend or predict something coming up, right? And so even the opportunities. So is it really just carousels, or is it videos that are more popular on Instagram? We'll go with that one. Right now it's carousels and images, and videos are actually at the bottom. Videos will give you the most engagement, but the other ones will, at least it'll give you a wider audience that'll view it, but really it's the carousels and the images that'll give you kind of the most engagement. Again, you can gain deeper insights and also have real-time analysis and adjustments. And so these are some of the platforms that you can use to help do that. So MailChimp, really great, large email blast list, but it'll also have that data live and be analyzing for you, like that conversion rate, as well as who is signing up for your newsletters or for your blog, who is viewing it. Sprout Social will do that as well. And there's another one called, I think it's Whitebridge, where you could type in everything and it'll analyze everything on the internet about you and give you an output or give you a report. I think it's Whitebridge. And then HubSpot does that as well. That was in the earlier part of the presentation. And so last but not least, I really want us to think about the ethical considerations when using AI. I know a lot of times it's so easy to put something in, copy and paste it, and put it where you want to put it. But technically that's not your actual work, right? So, but I also think when thinking about using these large language models, and they're, again, looking at patterns and they're looked at so much data, that you really make sure that it's accurate. There's been plenty of times I'll put something in there and I'm like, whoa, where'd they even get that from? That's not even no source. Where was that source from? And so I have to always double check, even using something like Perplexity, which provides resources or actually will cite what your example is. I still double check. Because I'm like, y'all not about to have me out here looking crazy. And plus I'm a scientist, trained scientist that has published. And so I know, and I've done it manually. So always double check and make sure what's being output is accurate. And then you want to be authentic and transparent about using AI. So this whole presentation was made with AI. A lot of me putting it in there, right? But anything from the graphics, all the graphics you saw, image generator pointed out, but I'm telling you now, this whole thing was made with or consulted with AI to make it. Still a lot of thoughts in my brain, but it just makes it easier when I have that thought partner, right? You also want to think about data privacy and security. So when you put personal things about you in large language models, they have that information. It's collected in their database, right? So the advice usually is to not use things so personal. Even my friend was like, if you put something in and you're within a certain niche, like AI is immediately going to know that it's you. And me, I'm okay with that just because I know I'm out there, I'm putting my brand out there. But you don't want to put social security information, although at this point, apparently we all got hacked and it's already out there. But addresses, anything personally identifiable to you, you don't want to put that in there. Also, again, it's looking at everything across the internet, and we already know that everything across the internet is not right, and it's probably biased or inappropriate and doesn't have fairness and inclusivity in it. So you can also do something what we call you prompt it in the very beginning to make sure that the output is either fair or has inclusive thought into it when you're doing your AI prompt engineering. Root prompts, that's what it's called. And so that gives the large language model rules to follow in order to make sure that the output is what you desire. And then, of course, intellectual property and content ownership. ChatGPT, OpenAI was sued by a couple authors because they're like, hey, that's my personal property. Like, you can't be using that to train your large language model. Even with image generation, deep fakes, all of that has those issues, and you want to make sure that you stay away from that. So that's why that originality, adding all those elements, will give you more of something that's authentic to you and something that you hopefully just won't get sued over. All right, I think we did good on time. That's the end of the presentation, and I thank you all for coming. If you guys have any questions, you can ask them now, but if you want to follow me on any social media platform, send me an email. My email's right there, but the QR code takes you to everything. I like to have it all in one place for you all to go to. But yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
What were the 3 AI tools that you used in the first couple slides?
The first couple of slides, let me just go ahead and go out there. The first 3,
Copy AI.
yes, and HubSpot, yes. And those all help with the brand voice, yes.
Is there a way that we can maybe get a copy of this presentation?
Send me an email and I'll send you a copy. You saw that then, right? info@KorieGrayson.com. Let me make sure I go back to it. Yes, ma'am.
So in your experience, this is in my experience, it's training the ChatGPT,
Yes.
particularly with my data,
Yes.
with my brand voice,
Yes.
with my target personas. I don't see the difference. And maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm doing as you called it, I guess, being too general, which I didn't think so. But I mean, do you feel like your training data has been working for you?
So I know there's a session later on today that's talking about putting your data in to make your own personal GPT. So I would definitely attend that session to see if there's something there that could be offered different. But what I do is I personally don't input my data per se, because I just I'm just so, maybe a control freak, maybe that's what it is. I still find it a breath of fresh air to create, think, just go off of what I'm talking about, just my imagination. And so I think I use this more as a tool to help with that whole content creation, maybe giving me outlines for a specific post, but then I'll go in and I'll make sure I write it so that it'll still sound like my tone and my voice. So I think it's easier to have all of that in there. And I went through that example because I think it's important in identifying, but your voice is always going to be your voice, regardless if you put it in a large language model or not. So I think it's important to take what you get with a grain of salt and then putting your own spin on it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna actually go back to untraining it and taking out the things I've trained it with, because it's not working for me.
Yeah. Again, it's not perfect yet. We're still, we're through what, 3 or 4 generations in? Maybe around the 12th generation they might got it.
I mean, and I give them materials, but I just feel like for me to have fed it my target audience, my brand voice, I'm not seeing that translating into output.
Yeah, okay,
So
I get you.
I actually have more success, I think, using no trained data to your point.
Exactly, and just seeing what people respond to. And so I think social media these days offers that kind of versatility and offering polls and seeing if this is, and being able to do something in a story before you actually post it and asking them, this is the kind of content you want to see? Because just because ChatGPT might say it's good content, it may not be. It may not be what your audience wants to see. So I think it's having that balance between both. Any other questions? So we good now? We know how to use AI, make our personal brands and self-promotion stand out? Okay, good.
Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Again, email me and I'll send you the presentation.